Hello again, Article Club. This is a bonus Melinda's Grief Corner. Oh, look at me, just you know, kind of all over the place today. This is a bonus for all of you out here in Melinda's Grief Corner. I normally come in here every 2 weeks to share some griefy reflections, some griefy resources. If you're new here, welcome. But I wanted to do a bonus short little blurb, uh, not a full newsletter, because in the US, today is Mother's Day. And my mother is still living. My father is the one who passed away last year. So, um, Father's Day is a tricky time for me, but I wanted to acknowledge that today is also a really tricky time for people who are grieving moms, of course. If you have lost your mom, whether that's recently or 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It's also a very tricky time for mothers who have lost their children. Can also be a tricky time for people who have lost their moms and are preparing to be a mom or want to be a mom. All to say, there are lots of people out there where Mother's Day is particularly sensitive, particularly awful, particularly triggering. Insert feely word here to describe how Mother's Day hits you. And I just want to acknowledge that, um, because it just needs to be said inside of the grieving space for grievers that today might be a day where if you're feeling particularly feely, you don't want to leave the house. Um, I have a friend whose mother passed a couple of years ago, and on Mother's Day, she doesn't leave the house because she doesn't want to see moms and daughters at brunch, or she avoids the nail salon because moms and daughters are getting pedicures and manicures together. And I fully, you know, makes a lot of sense. Makes complete sense that today is a particularly feely day and not a day that always gets recognized in terms of grief. So I'm coming in with a couple of resources. One is an article that was written in Huffington Post about a mother who has lost her children and what she wants to hear on Mother's Day. That would, I don't know if cheer her up is the right word, but at least something that would make her feel seen and witnessed. And then a podcast episode from the Good Morning Podcast is put together by two women, Sal and Em, who both have lost their mothers, and they actually met through that loss. I'm actually wearing a shirt from their podcast. This is a unsponsored content over here. um, where they share reflections and, share also listener reflections as well as kind of a way to have solidarity on this day and just recognize it as a day that can have a lot of feelings. Maybe it doesn't have a lot of feelings. Maybe, it can feel however it feels for you. However it feels for you is valid. But I didn't want today to go completely unrecognized. So I hope that you find these resources to be helpful or soothing, or I just hope that they give you some support in however and whatever support looks like for you today. So, you've always got big hugs from me. And yeah, I'll see you next week for more Griefy Corner.